It's a hard day's late night with Ira. Every night it's feeling alright. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. Why not come over tonight? We talk about everything under the moon. Your favorite cartoon or song you love. You never really know just how it might go. Why don't we get things started? It's a hard day's late night with Ira. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. It's a hard day's late night with Ira. A hard day's late night with Ira.
This week's episode of A Hard Day's Late Night with Ira, brought to you by Sarasota's friendliest garden supply. Thank you very much. You'll find them just right of the cigar barn, left of the Mennonite roller derby rink out there on Bahia Vista. Thank you very much. Great sponsors. Let's get on with the show. Hey, right on. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I'm Ira Elliott. I'm your host for A Hard Day's Late Night with the aforementioned Ira Elliott. I'm the same guy, same Ira, same old show. Tonight we're going to look at the second installment of the Brown Album, episode 2. My both vicious and loving examination of what I consider to be some of the Beatles' weakest material. Now, which I assure you, it's not the kind of thing that is taken up by people who really don't like the Beatles or those who are simply uninformed about them, but the kind of nerdy, know-it-all, smarty-pantsy thing that comes from loving the Beatles perhaps a little too much. So with that in mind, let us examine the middle years of the Beatles' recorded output, beginning with 1965's Rubber Soul and extending to the middle of 1968's Beatles, the White Album. My guest this late night is Rob Tannenbaum. Now, Rob co-wrote the acclaimed 2011 book, I Want My MTV. He produced a recent 4-disc box set of first-generation CBGB's bands. He has written for the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, GQ, Rolling Stone, and about, 24 other publications that have since gone out of business due to the demise of the American attention span. But he also happens to be a longtime acquaintance of mine. He's very smart, very funny because he's very smart. And so I was super tweaked to get him to discuss this very juicy topic with me. So let's take a look at Brown Album, episode 2, or maybe disc 2 perhaps, which I would call mid-period trash, 1965 to 1968. The Brown Album here on A Hard Day's Late Night with Ira. All right, so here we are, you and I. Hi, Rob Tannenbaum, and I'm so happy to get you to do this because, this is a pet project I've had in my mind for, like a decade or more. It's been floating around. I'm like, what a wonderful, ridiculous idea. For someone like me who loves the Beatles so much, I often question my own sanity. I'm like, what? It can't be right. So there was a period where I just like, you know what, let me go in there. Where did they get it wrong? So over the years, I've been debating various options, and I finally dove in and I went through the catalog, and I determined what I felt were, for right or for wrong, a number of songs that just didn't quite, for whatever reason, and it's hard to criticize the Beatles really on any level. Like everything they did was generally, even their quote unquote worst stuff, is still better than most people. You just can't. Even everything is charming and funny and has a sense about it. So I didn't really want to be overly critical, but there's some stuff that's worth talking about that is I felt a little bit subpar. So let's dive in and see. Let's see if we can take a few of these apart. Now, so I did the first section of songs with the guys in Bambikino. We went through the early years up until about 64. And we're starting here in 65. And I did these songs in the order in which they were recorded, not in the order in which they were released. So there's a little bit different. So the first one I want to talk about is this one is up for a lot of criticism. "Run for Your Life" is one of those songs that it's a classic Lennon thing, right? It's this sort of Lennon jealousy, which he heard in like "You Can't Do That," and later in like "Jealous Guy." He's a jealous person, right? He's famous for this sort of quality. But here's "Run for Your Life," which starts with that line from what's an Elvis? It's an Elvis song, right? "Baby, let's play house."
Yes.
You better. I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man, which is pretty brutal. So, what are your feelings about this particular song? I know it gets a lot of heat from critics, and probably rightfully so.
First of all, I'm confused, and I might not
Oh,
be as prepared
oh,
as you want me to do.
oh
I
no,
thought you
I'm not
said,
prepared either. I just have a list. I'm just kind of working off my head. I'm not really prepared with anything. But please, just go. Just don't worry about it. Do not, no fear.
I thought you said the Buggles. You said the greatest band of all time.
Oh,
So I
the
assumed.
Buggle. I should have spoken clearer. I apologize. I apologize. If we can do another, we can
No,
do
we're
another. We
good.
can do a separate episode about them. I'm totally
Let's do that.
all right. I'll work on that.
Run for your life. It's funny how things coincide. I was scrolling through Facebook a couple days ago, which is always a bad idea,
No, never do
but
that.
it showed me one of those Beatles Facebook groups.
Yeah,
And there was McCartney in an old interview that was quoted talking about the song Norwegian Wood.
yeah.
And he said, well, of course, at the end, John and I had to burn her house down because she wouldn't sleep with him, because that's just the kind of people we were. We were from Liverpool.
Right. Actually,
And it'll,
I feel I read the same thing recently. It's the first time I've ever heard anyone quote, because I know that people theorized about that for a long time. That he burn at the end of the song he burns the house down. I'm like, come on, people.
yeah.
But there's McCartney saying it. Yeah, please continue.
And it also reminded me of something that Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead said.
Yeah.
Um, he said, the Beatles were from Liverpool, a hard seafaring town. All these dockers and sailors around all the time who would beat the piss out of you if you so much as winked at them. Ringo is from the Dingle, which is like the fucking Bronx. He said the Stones were never anywhere near the Beatles, not for humor, not for originality, not for songs, not for presentation.
Right.
So there is a real streak of certainly machismo and maybe even sexism in some of the Beatles songs. And this is a sentiment that John later repudiated, right? I mean,
Sure.
I think
Oh,
Run for Your Life,
absolutely. Yeah.
it's the song he's talking about in Getting Better.
Oh,
I
there you
used to be
go.
cruel to my
Exactly.
woman. I beat her and kept her apart from the things that she loved. I see that as a repudiation of Run for Your Life, sort of like an I was so much younger than thing.
Right.
No, I was so much older then. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
this comes out of the blues. But this is just what bands did, right? The early Zeppelin songs before Robert Plant started writing the lyrics
Yeah.
and Jimmy Page was writing them. They were all about, women are terrible, they're horrible, you can't trust them, you shouldn't bother with them. So, there's the old explanation of, well, it's just how things were in those days. There's one thing in the
Yeah.
song that I really like where Lenny Kilmister talks about
Mm.
the craft and how it just can't be exceeded.
Yeah.
There's a little thing that Lennon does when he sings "Catch You with Another Man." For man, he moves minor, right? It's
Oh, right.
major, and then man is minor, and that kind of gives it a sense
Mm.
of alarm.
Yes.
And that's craft.
Oh yeah,
It's,
this is that absolutely. This is one of those things that I absolutely the no one. I think I read an entire book about this. It was like it was like songwriting secrets of the Beatles, and what they focused on was the Beatles' innate ability for guys who didn't study music theory. They were innately adept at using chord motion and chord coloring to highlight ideas, and this is a great example of it. By putting that one word in the minor, it makes you think about that idea differently. It's genius. Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
there's a book that, since you mentioned Beatles book, there's a book that I'm going to be mentioning a few times in our conversation I'm sure you've read it. Revolution in the
Well,
Head by
actually,
Ian.
I have it right here. As a matter of fact, a lot of the for some of the later songs, I'm going to go to it directly as well. It's one of my absolutely, as I'm sure you'll agree, one of the greatest pieces of
Yes.
Beatles analysis I've ever read.
And he calls Run for Your Life a dismal track.
Right.
But in terms of what you just said, there's another theme in his book that revealed a way of thinking about music that I hadn't thought before. Why were McCartney and Lennon such a great pair? People usually say Paul was the positive one, John was the negative one. It's not that simple.
No.
But what Ian MacDonald talks about is the fact that Lennon wrote horizontal melodies
Right.
and McCartney wrote vertical melodies.
Right.
And I think that goes into the arrangements too. I'm not saying that John's Beatles work is better than his solo work, not at all. But it's different because, if nothing else, Paul's playing bass,
Right.
which adds a melodic element and a contrapuntal element.
Right.
At that verticality, right? He's adding a vertical element to the horizontal nature of Lennon's singing and melodies.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, Paul was really, and when someone who got sort of saddled with playing the bass, if you believe the stories, I'm sure they're true, but all right, I'll do it, and then moved, the way his fluidity with the bass, the way he could, as you said, write contrapuntal motion and sort of give fluidity and another sense of rhythm to the song. It really incredible what he just his bass line. Sometimes just listen to the songs and only focus on the bass. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of those songs where kind of you hear a little bit of both of them.
I think so.
Yeah.
They were still crediting the songs to Lennon and McCartney.
Yeah.
And in later years, each of them would kind of specify, no, that was more my song. But there was often, even if it's just McCartney saying that he was singing "It's Getting Better All the Time," and Lennon walked by and muttered, "Can't get no worse." Even that,
Right.
that tiny little thing helps make the song and adds dimensions to it.
Right. And that's the difference between well, that's the Beatles. Like it's the four of them working in tandem. You got a broader palette.
Yeah.
All right. But be that as it may, I have to say, "Run for Your Life." It's going on the Brown album. I have to. That's where it's going. So let's go to this next one. I think this is a Ringo song, and it's you mentioned again Ian MacDonald's Revolution in the Head, and I think that's the book I chose to use as the guidebook because he did it again in the order of which the songs were recorded, not the which they were released, which gives you an interesting line of see how they recorded these things. So what goes on, which Ringo? Is that a Ringo composition all the way?
I don't know if it is. I know Ringo's singing. I don't think it is a Ringo composition.
No.
Um,
I don't know why I assumed that was one of his country kind of songs. Let's go. What does Ian MacDonald have to say about it? I wonder.
let's see.
What goes on?
Who's going to look it up faster, me or you?
Well, let's go. I don't know. We'll have a little showdown.
We going to sell some copies of this book?
I would hope so. This is a great book. I used this one
I-
and what's the other one? Tell Me Why. I like that one as well. Do you know
It's
that one?
Lennon, McCartney, Starkey. So Ringo
Ah.
gets a credit.
All right, there you go.
I'm going to name drop a little bit.
Go right ahead.
A few months ago, I interviewed Ringo. It was
Oh
the
my
first
God.
time. It was the first time I'd ever interviewed him. He was my second Beatle,
Wow.
and I was talking to him about the fact that first of all, I was talking to him the fact that after the Beatles broke up,
Yeah.
he was the only one. Ringo was the only one who had a solo album on which all three other Beatles played.
That's right.
And I said, well, Ringo, I don't want to say that you were the glue, and he said, oh, no, I was the glue.
He went, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he's Ringo.
Yeah.
But one of the things I brought up to him was that when John and Paul had to write songs for him.
Yeah.
They were certainly writing for his limited vocal range and his unique vocal tone.
Right.
But even more than that, they were writing for his personality and his sensibility. And I said to him, and he agreed. I said, that is a tremendous act of love.
Yes.
Not just here's a song that, yeah, okay, maybe you'll be able to sing, but here's a song that you can sing
Yeah.
that's you.
Right. It suits your character. Yeah.
And you can't do that unless you love someone.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So Ian MacDonald is funny about this song.
Yeah.
Ringo sings dolefully.
As he does.
George Harrison trots out his Chet Atkins cliches, and then 2 minutes and 45 seconds are filled. Another 2 minutes and 45 seconds are filled. That's brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Yeah, it is. It is like, I guess if you want to talk about a throwaway, this might go in there. And it's a country song. Ringo was obsessed with Ringo was going to move to Houston at some point. Was that the deal?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had looked up. I read that in the Lewison book. He was, I guess there, he was between jobs. He didn't know what to do. And he had written to I think the Houston Chamber of Commerce. And he was going to go and move to Houston, get a job doing something there. And then I guess that it didn't happen, but he was going to do that. He loved the West. And I guess Houston, Texas is where he was going to head. And with a name like Ringo Starr, I mean, it's the most cowboy name you could possibly think of. I mean, he was.
It is.
He's so.
I noticed that your Brown album has a lot of Ringo songs and even more George songs.
That's the unfortunate thing, is that George is heavily he's heavily represented here, but he wrote some clunkers through the middle. He got some great ones in there. But he was trying to get up to speed with the other two, and it's not his fault. But unfortunately, his songs tend on the whole to be a little less strong than John and Paul's.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll get to my opinions on George a little later, and they won't be kind. But for full transparency with your listeners,
sure.
I just want to briefly tell you sort of my position about the Beatles.
Please.
Beatles are possibly the greatest rock band of all time.
Possibly.
It's either the Beatles or the Velvet Underground. You're an optimist or you're a pessimist. If you wear black and live in New York City like me, you have to think that the Velvet Underground are parallel with the Beatles.
Okay.
But the arc of the Beatles' career was absolutely unique, and it was unprecedented. And it's something that's followed over and over by other bands, right? You start simple. You get more complex, you get more experimental, you break up, you do solo albums. So the Beatles are a great and important band.
Right.
But I don't love the Beatles. And I don't love them because I don't feel a personal attachment to them, which I think has to do with when you and I grew up. By the time I started listening to music, the Beatles were long broken up.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
This was music from another generation.
Right.
Like when my father played Benny Goodman or the Sound of Music soundtrack.
Right. Interesting.
So to me, hearing the Beatles on the radio over and over, this was an impressive, it's an edifice, right? It's like Mount Rushmore. Right. But no, you look at Mount Rushmore and you say, wow. You don't say, I want to stare at this all day. It's more like, wow, that's impressive. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So
Where's the gift shop?
Personal feelings, right? the personal feelings that I had for bands were bands who were putting out new music while I was discovering rock and roll. I love the Beatles. I said I don't love the Beatles. I greatly respect the Beatles, and I don't intend this as any sort of an insult upon them.
Yeah.
Just personally, individually, it's possible that, say, Bachman Turner Overdrive mean more to me.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting. I come from a different mindset, but I hear what you're saying exactly.
Do you feel like this is your band, even though they'd broken up by the time you were a little kid?
Yeah, I do. I have a slightly different experience because I had an older sister, And all through the 60s, as I grew up and started to become conscious of what other things around me, the Beatles were ever present. They were, my sister was a teenager when I was in '64. I was 1, and she was about 11 or 12, which is like prime, like Beatle target age. So her
Sure.
and her friends were, the Beatles were. If it wasn't the radio, AM radio of the '60s, the Beatles were on the stereo. So I was well aware, and I remember my parents and my sister making a big deal. By maybe '68, I don't know exactly when, but they started showing Hard Day's Night on television in the late '60s on like the 4:30 movie in New York, and I remember I was probably maybe 5 or 6 when I first saw it, and it really left an impression on me. And then I'd watched it a couple more times, and it kept growing on me. This sort of iconography of the Beatles, their personalities, and this particular film has a particular energy to it, which is really fun and energetic. And it definitely planted a seed in my mind about being a musician for sure, and about being a drummer specifically. And then by the time around 72, 73, when I was 10, 11, 74, I was listening to a lot of pop music on the radio and really digging the radio of those years. But the Beatles were still ever present in my mind. You're right, they were playing them on the radio probably just as much as when they were still together.
Yeah.
To me, they were never far away. And then, of course, you had a series of bands throughout the '70s, and we could talk about power pop and how, in America particularly, there was a sort of like a hole that they left, and then other bands kind of came in to fill the hole, like the Raspberries or Big Star tried to do, or Cheap Trick did very well. The sort of Beatle-esque kind of bands who sang, harmonies and, had a Beatle-y kind of quality to them. The Knack later on, obviously, really traded on that. But to me, the Beatles were ever present, and I think I kept coming in waves. Where, for example, in high school, for example, I started to fill out. I had certain Beatle records that my sister had owned, and I'm like, I'm a completist, so I gotta fill out. I don't have this one, I don't have that one. So I started going to the record stores and filling out my collection, and then. Now my collection, but yeah. So to me, the Beatles were ever present, and I really saw myself as a really deeply Beatles fan the whole time. I was really connected to them, and I loved all that other stuff too. I loved Bachman Turner Overdrive and all that '70s stuff. That's my generation, but the Beatles were really like kind of the baseline kind of thing for me. And Ringo in particular, I still to this day, when people ask me about who's your favorite drummer, I just say Ringo. That's the obvious answer. He's the alpha and the omega. He's like the perfect drummer. He's not technically anything to talk about, but he's deeply musical, and that's more important.
So when you hear people say, "Oh, if only the Beatles had had a good drummer,"
Yeah, I just wind up and I just knock him flat. No, actually, I have one friend. I would never do that, but I have a friend who claims. I have a friend, and he's from. He's a classic mod. He's a classic English mod. Mod Steve, I call him. And Mod Steve, who's looks like a member of the Small Faces. He's a little kind of tough, handsome British guy with a fringe haircut. And he told me the story that a friend of his leaned in and said, well, they were talking about the Beatles, and the guy says, well, Ringo wasn't much of a drummer, was he? And Steve turned to him and said, say that again? And the guy goes, I said, Ringo, he wasn't much of a drummer, was he? And at that point in the story, I personally thought, well, that's where I start explaining myself. Like, well, you have to understand that drumming is this and that. Steve said, and then I punched him in the face. You can't say that about Ringo. You just can't say that. He wasn't having it. So yeah, I've been a Ringo defender for many years, and it's people just don't understand. People think the drumming is all about being whatever Neil Peart and having 8 arms and playing real fast, and not the way I look at playing the drums. For me, I'm like Ringo, a song drummer. The drummer has to fit the song, and that he used his skill set, limited though it may have been, to make those songs great. And he never, he did it exactly right. He sat in there beautifully. He made beautiful commentary. He stayed out of the way. He motivated the songs. I mean, there's still people who defend Pete Best. I don't get that one. No, it wasn't really that bad. I'm like, he was awful.
There's another element to Ringo's role too.
Yeah.
Which goes back to his comment about being the glue.
Yeah.
And he was joking, but how much earlier do you think the Beatles break up if Ringo isn't in the band?
Oh yeah, no,
If it's
absolutely.
if it's Pete Best
Oh,
or
forget.
if it's Keith
Oh
Moon,
no, no,
which is
no.
funny to think about.
Oh, I love doing that. I love playing that game. Yeah, Keith Moon. It's ridiculous. Charlie, maybe. Yeah, no. None, yeah, no. His personality was really particular, and you could see it in their sense of humor when you think about how the four of them locked together. This sort of insular quality that they had together, this sort of sense of humor that they all shared. This kind of, and the mega force, that's kind of thing. What's that children's TV show where the individuals like become like one giant mega thing? They turn into a giant robot together. What's that TV show? That's
Mm.
some kids cartoon where like it's like there's like five Japanese guys in suits, and then they turn into like one mega monster. The Beatles were like that. They were all individually very super charismatic, and then when the four of them in the same room, man, it was just like a supernova of charisma, unbearable. Yeah. So Ringo,
Well,
yeah, absolutely. Ringo is really central to the secular quality. The sort of Lennon was the main dude, and then he allowed McCartney in, and so there was that connection. And then
yeah.
McCartney brought in Harrison, and then Harrison brought in, I think, Ringo had dated George's sister or something like that for a while. He like, oh, I know this drummer, and they met Ringo, and Ringo was older than John, so they had to respect Ringo. So there's this circle of respect between the four of them. It's amazing.
Yeah. And they grew up within what, a mile of one another?
Yeah, a
Two
couple
miles?
of miles. Yeah, it doesn't. It's just crazy.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It's a crazy story. And that's the other thing about the story. Never stops being fascinating to me. All the ins and outs and the almost impossible quality of these four particular gentlemen meeting each other and becoming the band they became. Yeah, it's fairly incredible. So I've always been a Beatles guy, and I see what you're saying. I know that they weren't primary to; they were kind of the past. I never thought of them as the past. They always seemed really present to me.
So that brings us to the first George
The
song that
first
we
George
have to
song that we need to,
decimate.
yeah, unfortunately, and that is
Love You
from
Too.
"Love You Too" from Revolver. So what are your feelings here? With
Revolver is one of my top two Beatles albums. This is not a song that I sit still for. It's it's the first evidence of George's interest in Indian music. And he does his best to
yeah,
be authentic. There's tabla, tambura, there's sitar that is attributed to George, but Ian MacDonald thinks was played by a genuine sitar player from London.
yeah,
Um, but George is singing Indian drones here,
yes,
and he's not exactly Nusrat Ali Khan, is
no,
he? He just doesn't have the vocal command
yeah,
to bring this off.
right. His sort of nasal, up through the nose singing style.
And I think he embraced this partly because it's droney, right? It's first of all, it's an exotic sound. It's a sound I love. It's
Yeah,
exciting,
yeah,
but it was easy for him to slip into knowing the limitations of his voice, sort of like the way they wrote songs for Ringo, knowing the limitations of his voice.
correct.
And then with George's songs, his solo songs too, he's my least favorite Beatle. I often feel like I'm being lectured by my grandfather.
There, there is this is a quality of George's songs that goes through, and we'll talk about a few more of them. This sort of quality of being lectured, absolutely.
Finger wagging, right?
Yes, yeah, I
I
think,
don't want pop, I don't want pop music to wag its finger at me.
yeah, yeah, he does that quite a bit. It's unfortunate. There's quite a number of them, and this is probably the first one. But he started with like "Leave Me," what's this? "Don't Bother Me." Like he was kind of a negative cat.
And if you look at the Peter Jackson documentary, The
Yeah.
Beatles Get Back,
Yes.
he's walking around sulking about the fact that John and Paul won't let him get his songs on whatever album it was at the time they were working on.
Yeah.
But it's also more of a they never let me get my songs on the album, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's possible that John and Paul were right. Like
It
you
is.
think,
It is possible. I mean, okay, when you hear, in his defense, All Things Must Pass is a collection of really beautiful songs he'd been saving up. I don't know when he started writing those songs, but there's some really nice ones there. But yeah, he had a hard time being taken seriously by the other two. And yes, a lot of these songs were not up to snuff. And I can imagine they were like, alrighty, sure.
If you took Love You To off of Revolver
Yeah.
and replaced it with, something that Paul left on the floor of his London bachelor pad,
Yeah.
I gotta think it would improve the record.
Probably would. Probably would. Yeah. And hence its inclusion on the Brown album.
It occurred to me that in some ways, your imaginary Brown album is basically George's first solo album.
Yeah, I think that's I think this might be a way to market it. Absolutely. Okay, so now we've taken apart "Love You To." Is there anything else any other reason we need to rake this song over the leaves?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's move on. We have another George song to rake, and that is "Only a Northern Song." And again, I wrote this. I guess I had written this some time ago. My note was, "It's only a disgruntled and sarcastic George Harrison." What a drag! what a drag this song is. A well-known drag. Again, like a series of complaints put to music. Yeah.
Yeah. And he wrote this earlier.
Yeah.
They tried recording it or did record it, and John and Paul just wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And then they needed filler for Yellow Submarine.
Right.
Ian MacDonald calls it a self-indulgent dirge. I haven't thought about this, but maybe one of the reasons that I like Ian MacDonald's book so much is because he has so little patience for George.
Yeah, he calls them like they are. He doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
Yeah, self-indulgent dirge. I think that's I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. He gives it all like one paragraph, right?
They
only know the song.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Almost all the songs that you and I are talking about today, he deals with in a paragraph, maybe two.
Yeah.
Except for one, which we're going to get to later, and is possibly the longest entry in MacDonald's book. But we'll
get there. We'll get there when we get there. All right. I think I know what you're talking about. So only a Northern Song. Beatle people, you know what we're talking about. It's like it's sort of a dismissive song about the record company. Like a Northern Songs was their publishing company.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't matter what we do. We're the Beatles, so it could be awful. It could be great. You don't care what color my hair is. Yeah, it's kind of, it's pretty throwaway.
Yeah, George, and what always cracks me up about George is, here he is lecturing us about culture and pop music and value. Mm-hmm. This is a guy whose first big composition was complaining about how much tax he was paying. And paying.
Right.
And I see. Now you're enlightened. Yeah. Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
The material. Yes, let's give up the material world, Mr. Taxman. Give me back my money. But now I want to give up the material world.
Right. Yeah, it's a little contradictory, and it continues on that way. I guess that must have ended up on the third episode. Episode 3 contains Piggies. We only get halfway through the White Album here on episode 2. But that's another one where complaining. So Only a Northern Song, we've got that. So Within You Without You is the next George one that's on the agenda. Again, it's kind of the same thing, right? Within You Without You is sort of this spiritual journey. He, where was it? I was reading MacDonald's entry as well. The same thing. He does defend Within You Without You as being central to the underlying concept of the Sgt. Pepper record on some level. Do you know what I'm saying? He the sort of universal love kind of vibe that the song has. And I like the idea life goes on within you and without you. That's a beautiful sentiment. And that's a very beautiful Zen idea. So some of the ideas in the song, but again, it's this sort of like with our love we could change the world. It's a bit overdone.
And musically, there isn't a whole lot going on.
Right. Again, he's working in this sort of drone thing, so there's not a lot of
Yeah,
motion.
right.
Yeah.
And sitar and tabla, they're not percussion instrument. Sorry, no, sitar isn't a percussion instrument.
Right.
Tabla and tambura aren't percussion instruments where you can build a sort of rock and roll sense of drama, right?
Right.
They're constant,
Yeah.
they're steady,
Yeah. They're softer.
you,
Yeah.
and the rhythm might vary, but there aren't wild crescendos.
Yeah.
So, this, yeah, to me, this song just kind of goes on and on. But, we've been pooping on George for a while. So
Yeah.
let me poop on something else.
Okay.
And first, I'd like you to answer this, and then I'll tell you my answer.
Okay. I'll try.
How many great songs are there on Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band?
How many great songs on that particular record?
Yes.
Specifically, how many?
Yes.
Well, how many songs are on the record? There's like a dozen.
There are 13.
13 songs. Well, I would imagine of those 13, and maybe do I have to look at the list? How many great songs on that? Well, I would say I don't know if all of them are great songs. I'd say most of that record is great songs. Though I feel like there's a specific answer here that I don't have. But I mean, I don't think every song on that record is great. Like A Day in the Life is a work of genius. Everyone, I think, would agree. It's sort of brilliant, arrangement and the ideas it contained. But
Yeah.
the opening song is not a great. I mean, the opening song is not a great song. Getting Better All the Time, I think, is a great song. I don't know, a handful of them are great songs, and the rest of them are good songs. I mean, Lovely Rita is a pretty interesting song. Good Morning is a pretty weird, interesting song. I mean, most songs are pretty cool, and I don't know. I don't know what are you driving at? Where are you going?
Well, I've participated in Rolling Stone lists of the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah.
When I was at Blender magazine, we did lists like this. And to me, you're going to get calls. I'm going to get
That's all
violent
right.
messages on Facebook.
Listen,
Sergeant Pepper,
the guy who's talking about the Brown album. Do you think I care? Go ahead, lay in, lay in there.
this Sergeant Pepper not only isn't the best rock album of all time,
Yeah.
it's not the best rock album of the 60s. It's not even the best Beatles record. It might not be
No.
in the top five.
Right.
And when I've said this to people, oh, Sergeant Pepper, it's groundbreaking. It's important. It's influential. You weren't there. It changed the sound of rock music.
Yeah.
Well, all right. But looking at this, I count four great songs.
Right. Okay.
There's
Go ahead.
She's Leaving Home,
Okay.
which is my favorite McCartney song. And I was writing something about it a couple of years ago. I discovered that many, many people hate this song, which I can't understand.
Okay.
But it's a beautiful. Maybe it's just because now I'm a parent.
Right.
But when I hear the song, I come pretty close to crying.
Okay.
And the marvel of that song is the way he's able to write it from the perspective of the girl who's leaving home, but also from her parents.
Right. He goes back and
And
forth.
this is 1967. He's not calling the parents evil or awful. This isn't about a generation gap. This is about what did we do that was wrong?
Yeah.
We didn't know it was wrong. Oh
Right.
my God.
Yeah. Right.
To me, that's just stunning.
Yeah.
So she's leaving home with little help from my friends. Can't
Right.
argue with it.
Okay.
Day in the life, as you said, fantastic.
Right.
Good morning, good morning.
It's,
Okay,
it's interesting. I'm not one of the great. It's again interesting arrangement wise. There's a lot of interesting. The rhythm arrangement of it is very, very interesting.
good enthusiasm, good power pop
Yeah.
enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But the rest of it,
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Yeah. I hear you. Getting Better. You don't think Getting Better is a good song? That's pretty catchy. It's a really catchy little number.
I guess so.
And that's also
Yeah.
got that wonderful Lennon McCartney energy back and forth. Like you said, like John kind of chimes in, can't get no worse. I mean, it's got a kind of very deeply Beatlesque quality to it.
I feel like there's a disparity or a discrepancy in this album where Paul is doing really well, and John is struggling.
Yeah, I think that we were seeing the yeah, and I think that could probably continue on for the next few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. It's leaving. If she's leaving home, I've gone up and down with this one. I wonder sometimes again, like there's no way to know, but I know that George Martin was unhappy with the string arrangement. He felt that was and I wonder like how different that song would have been had George Martin arranged the strings and not whoever the guy was that Paul got in the interim to do it.
Right.
It's not
So for
bad, but I don't think it's great. I think it's serviceable. But I have a feeling that George Martin would have done something other that I can't imagine what it would have been. That might have been even better. The problem I kept here's my problem with the song was the way they wrapped it up. Was like she has this thing she breaks out. She doesn't want to tell him. She sneaks out in the morning. She leaves them the note. They find the note. And then, cut to a few days later, she's living in Swing Lane. She's having a great time. She's meeting a guy, blah blah blah. But the denouement, the final moment is the thing that she didn't have fun, and now she's having fun. It seemed a very sort of pat kind of answer to the, she just wasn't having a good time, so she left. I don't know, it seems a little. That seems a little bit of a strange, just a, I don't know, to end the song on I don't know, for something that's so emotional and has a beautiful emotional range because of this orchestral quality. It has this beautiful, epic, sweeping thing, and the sort of the way they reach up in the choruses for this really beautiful high plaintive notes. She is leaving, way up high in the air, hanging. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
But no, it's a gorgeous song. But I think it has some flaws. Not enough to go on the Brown album, but I did consider it for a few minutes actually. Yeah, but you're right. I don't think Sgt. Pepper is their best work. I think it was there's a book that I love called Magic Circles, which is a very interesting take on the Beatles. It's a very I can't really describe it. I haven't read it in a while. I recommend it very highly. And he posits that when we needed the Beatles the most at this particular juncture in history in 67. He goes, the Beatles had a pact with us. The Beatles were like, we're for real. When they showed up, they're like, we're not Elvis. We're not showbiz. We are us. And we're going to speak directly, and we're not bullshit. We're the real thing. And they were right until Sgt. Pepper, when they decided to we're not going to be us. We're going to be another band, and we're going to put on these costumes and blah, blah, blah. At a time when everything was blowing up and the Beatles needed to be grounded, they went off on this tangent and did this psychedelic thing where they could hide behind characters. And this guy thought
That's interesting.
And he felt this was a great betrayal of the Beatles' pact with their audience. And I think it's a fascinating take that I'd never thought of. This author, whose name I will remember in a minute, also believes that the White Album is their greatest work. It is the most reflective of their personalities and is I think, are you about to agree with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the Beatles album I've listened to the most.
Yeah.
Although I always have to skip past Obla Di Obla Da, which is one of the worst songs ever written.
Oh yes, I can't.
Sorry, Sir Paul.
Yeah, no, you don't apologize.
Absolute
I'm the same. I'm that way. Rocky Raccoon's that one of mine's to me. I just can't. I can't anymore. I mean, I can't. I won't. I can't and I won't.
Well, and that actually brings us to our next song, doesn't it?
Oh, was that a good segue? I wasn't even paying attention anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we? Oh, yes. Paul. Okay, so, well, let's put it this way. They had a job. They had to put songs on this movie. They probably didn't want to do it, but they had this Yellow Submarine thing going, and they had to do something with it. And I think there was not they weren't like particularly crazy about this idea. They didn't even voice it, right? They hired four bad Americans to sound like English guys. So the song is All Together Now. Now, on its face, it's a very sweet, charming little song. Paul probably wrote it in, 35 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, Paul was good at this. He could just take something and just skiddly scat scoot, and there was a song. Hello Goodbye might be the same way. Like, you say, yeah, it's like they did it like, you say, yes, Yes, I'm gonna write that down. And I say no. Okay, no, I'm gonna write that down. And it sounds like he makes something effortless, but this song is just kind of a nursery rhyme.
Yes.
Hey guys, let's. He was good at that. Like, let's the team together. Probably when they were starting to fall apart, and he wanted a song that sort of had this like together. Come on, guys. Yeah, but it's pretty flimsy.
If you tell me this song isn't on the Brown album, I'm gonna get
Yeah,
angry.
no, don't.
Oh,
It's one of its
it's
central tracks of the Brown album.
it's a throwaway.
Yeah.
It's a song for fifth graders to sing at summer camp, holding hands and making s'mores. It's
Yes,
it,
yes,
you can't get more twee than this.
yeah.
Including there's a ukulele.
Is there one in there?
Yes.
Oh Lord, that's
Oh,
one of my
he
most. Yeah, as long as at least not a banjo, and I'm okay with that. Ukulele, I can almost put up with.
what that joke? What's the definition of a gentleman?
I don't know, Rob. What is the definition of a gentleman?
Someone who can play the banjo but doesn't.
Yes, sir. And I always think of. I'm a big fan of the Beatles' Christmas messages, where they sort of improvise a. Please don't bring your banjo back. I don't know where it's been. I wasn't hardly gone a day when it became the scene. Banjos, banjos all the time. I can't forget that tune. And if I ever hear another banjo, I'm going out by a big balloon. Like that sort of quiet little takedown of banjos. That's another thing that the Beatles infected me with. Like that, they didn't like banjos. I'm not crazy about them either. That little snatch of melody always comes back into my head. But yeah, all together now, straight to the Brown album. STBA. But let's get back to George.
Must we?
Well, we have to, because this is the Brown album, and we have to slog through that. We have to get through the muck, and there's not too much George left. There's one, two. There's only two George songs left to speak about here, I think. And one is It's All Too Much. And again, I feel it's the same thing. He's on this sort of hippie together world kind of trip. And It's All Too Much again. It seems to be another thing where he's like, let's throw the sink at it, the backwards stuff. And, it's his throwaway. It doesn't seem to have any substance at all. And they make a big deal about it. But again, there was probably something they had to, we needed stuff for this Yellow Submarine record. I don't know if they wrote it for that soundtrack or they had it sitting around. I'm not sure where it came from.
I think that this might surprise you.
Uh-oh, here. Okay, go.
I like It's All Too Much, and I'm going to
Okay.
defend it.
Go right ahead. I'm willing. I'm willing to stop. I can take it.
To
I've
me,
been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again.
to me, this song is the companion of TNK, Tomorrow Never Knows.
Ah,
It's psychedelia, and I'm not a huge psychedelia fan.
right.
Maybe I just didn't enjoy LSD enough. I don't know.
Okay, possibly.
But it's psychedelia that rocks, right? It even RAWK rocks,
You're not
which is
wrong there. You're not wrong.
which is impressive when, I don't know, is it one chord?
Probably.
And there's a real hodgepodge of instruments. There's, I think, organ, trumpet, clarinet, and feedback guitar.
Yeah.
But to me, it works because it all swirls together.
Oh, true.
And it's not a this is one time where I don't care about the words that much.
Okay.
This
It is pretty groovy.
it's a sensibility, right? It's not
Right.
sense, it's sensibility.
Yes.
That's what it's aiming for.
Right.
But you know what? That also made me think about, look, the Beatles are a rock and roll band.
Yes.
There's no other way to describe them. They became more than that.
Right.
But how many Beatles songs rock?
There's not too many. The Word. Yeah. There's a handful that really truly rock. Yeah.
Helter Skelter, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's Got Something to Hide.
Right.
Fantastic song.
Yeah. Now there's a bunch. Didn't Dave Grohl put out a? Wasn't there a Dave Grohl approved comp some years ago Dave Grohl organized a comp. It was a digital only thing you got on Apple Music. You could get it as a digital download, and it was Dave Grohl's attempt to prove to a younger generation how much the Beatles rocked. WRAWKED.
Yeah.
Yes. I should find that. Where is that darn thing? Yeah. You're right. It does. It does in fact rock. It is a pretty groovy jam. It is a groovy jam. I can't. You're right there. Where is that comp? I know I have it here. Hold on. Give me 1 second. See if I can find it. Do you know the one I'm talking about? Do you recognize that?
No, I've never heard about this.
Okay. Hold
But
on.
you go ahead and look for it, and
Go ahead. You
I'll
talk. Yeah. Go, keep going. Keep going.
I'll pretend you're not here.
All right. Please. I'm
I'll
I'm
also
hardly here. I'm hardly here.
Hey Bulldog Rocks.
Correct.
I'm going to
Yes.
count
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Oh, no doubt.
Come Together.
Yes.
I Want You, She's So Heavy.
Yes.
And then the medley on the second side of Abbey Road.
There's a lot of rocking going on there.
Yeah, which is unimpeccable.
Yeah.
It's either impeccable or unimpeachable.
Unimpeachable. Unimpeccable is that's not what you wanted.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant.
Where is that? Yeah, I was just a fan of I think The Word is a pretty funky jam. I think that's the Beatles at their funkiest.
The Ballad of John and Yoko.
That is kind of rock. Yeah, that's
That rocks,
Paul
yeah.
Paul on drums.
But they were a rock and roll band that didn't rock all that much.
No, well, yeah, starting in this period. Well, the drugs
Yeah.
the drugs started to unrock them.
I guess is that the inevitable effect?
I don't know. It depends on it depends on what drugs you take. I think early on they were taking the right drugs to rock. They were sort of on speed, and
Yeah.
then they were on Preludin, and they rocked because they were sweating, and then they started smoking pot, and they relaxed, and they didn't need to rock quite as much. Where is this goddamn ultimate live transcending 30 days? I'm going to take one quick pass through. Revolving Revolution, Quarry and Producing. Is that in Rarities or is it in? Wait a minute. No, I could be wrong. I have been known to be wrong many a time. Hold on now. Beatles. Here we go. Let me try this again. Tomorrow,
Okay. Wait, I think I found it.
Tomorrow Never Knows. I think it's called.
Yes. It's called Tomorrow Never Knows.
Right.
And it was
Yes.
released in 2012.
Correct.
Revolution.
Revolution. Paperback Writer.
Yeah.
And Your Bird Can Sing.
And Your Bird Can Sing. Yeah.
Savoy Truffle. I'm Down. Classic.
Yeah.
I've Got a Feeling. The naked version. Back in
Yeah.
the USSR. Can't do that. These are rockers. It's all too
Yeah.
much. There it is. It's all too much.
Yeah.
She said.
See,
She said.
Dave-
Hey, Bulldog. Yeah. You hit
Dave
it.
Grohl is with me.
Yeah.
I have Dave Grohl on my side.
You can't lose. You've won. I may have to take this off I may have to remove this from the Brown album. I will definitely take that in consideration. I've taken ones off. I've been argued out. I might be argued out of this one. Okay, so we can say that it rocks. All right, so maybe this is the one I've overqualified. Hey, maybe, and good for George that we could take this one off. So I'm gonna asterisk that, and maybe this won't go on the final Brown album. We'll see when I do the final assessment at the end. Let's move on to his other. Let's put that George song aside and go to this George song, Blue Jay Way.
If we go back to any moment in the middle of the Beatles' history where George is saying, "Why wouldn't they take my songs seriously?" Well, here's why.
Yeah. Right.
It's a trifle.
Yeah. And again, he sounds just like the note I wrote years ago says, this morbid, laconic song is what happens when you keep a tired, baked George waiting. Give him some warm milk and keep him away from the Hammond. Yeah, it's like...
In the song, right, he's in the Hollywood Hills of Los Angeles.
Right.
He's annoyed at his friends because they're late in getting over to his house.
Right.
He's saying, "Please don't be long."
Right.
What else? Like, what else is happening in this song?
That's it.
What I noticed on Spotify, Blue Jay Way is the Magical Mystery Tour song with the least number of spins. Well deserved. Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
17 million spins as opposed to
Oh,
Strawberry Fields Forever at 212 million.
that sounds about right.
It,
That ratio sounds about right.
it's the redheaded stepchild of Magical Mystery Tour.
Right. Right.
Plus, he sings like a duck.
Like a duck. He's practically quacking.
Practically. My God. Oh, so our old friend Ian McDonald
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And
He has no love for this song.
by the way, just to show that I am not agreeing with everything Ian McDonald says,
Yeah.
he doesn't like It's All Too Much.
Okay.
But what he said about Blue Jay Way, it numbingly fails to transcend the boredom that inspired it.
Yeah. Yeah. That very right on the mark. Right on the mark. Yeah. Yeah,
I
there
wonder
you
if
go.
George
Nothing else.
read that.
Yeah, nothing else to say about it. I mean, that's well, it's just yeah. This again, like it's really a drag to listen to this song. It always makes me feel tired, and yeah, it makes me feel like I want to go to sleep, angry, and that's no way.
Yeah.
And that's no way to go to sleep.
And I would argue that if you're the Beatles and, Paul is busy whoring around London
Yeah.
and uh, John has met Yoko and he's taking heroin and he's just not paying attention.
Mm.
He's doing scream therapy.
Right.
You don't have enough songs, put out an EP. I
Yeah.
don't care. Make it an EP.
Yeah.
You don't need to start George songs like, we need filler. Why do you need filler?
Right. And it was an EP. I mean, right? The Magical Mystery Tour thing was a pair of EPs, was it not? I believe the yeah. In England, it was a pair of EPs. In the States, it was
Oh,
an
okay.
album.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah,
so you're not
I know
too
that.
off the far off the mark. It was in fact kind of a pair of EPs, which are for them were kind of throwaway sort of things. They were sort of
Yeah.
secondary. Yeah, so this is really secondary stuff, and again, a well-known drag. And then also on this record, we have the very unremarkable flying, which is just like a chord progression and a la 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 la.
Yeah.
At least it's all
Well,
four of them. I like that it's all four of them at the same time. That's kind of nice. But that's about the best
so
I can
we
say about it.
we're moving now from
Oh,
the
you want to keep going at Blue Jay Way? I'm totally fine if
no,
you
no,
want to keep
no.
going at it.
No, but just we're moving from Blue Jay Way, the least popular song on Magical Mystery Tour, to Flying, the second most unpopular song on Magical Mystery Tour,
Yeah.
which no one would argue is the top five Beatles album, I don't think.
Yeah,
Um,
it's got some great stuff on it. It's got a couple of really great songs on there.
they harmonize the four of them on some nonsense syllables,
Yeah.
but I would still call this an instrumental.
Yeah.
Uh, it's kind of a slow blues, right?
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of Booker T and the MGs.
It's got a Green Onions vibe, no doubt.
Yeah. And there's a Mellotron part by Lennon that's really, really gorgeous.
Yes.
So, I'd say I object to songs that aspire to greatness but are throwaways. I object to McCartney, who can do better
Mm.
writing cutesy throwaways. I don't object to this song.
Right.
It's not on anyone's top Beatles songs list,
Right.
but it does kind of illustrate what was so good about them.
True.
And it would have been an absolutely uh, perfectly acceptable demo.
Yes. Yes. I mean, yeah, I agree with you 100%. And yeah, it's not pretending to be something. It's not painfully something. Again, it's something they needed to kind of fill out some space, and it is a lovely little thing. It does have some really nice parts in it. Absolutely.
The point of them coming off the road it was 1966, right? When they
Correct.
stopped touring.
Correct.
The point of it was for them to focus on working in the studio.
Yes.
And I'm not a big fan of Sergeant Pepper. I'm not here to slander their post 1966 work, but when you leave the road to focus on the studio, and you end up putting all of these subpar songs on your records, then it kind of defeats the purpose of having come off the road,
Correct. Right. 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 Yeah.
which maybe is why Paul wanted them to go back out on the road.
Yeah. Let's get back to work. This is not doing us any
Yeah,
good at all. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's get some floor monitors and back out there. They still hadn't
It's
had. They still didn't
fat.
have those. When did they? I want to
It,
know when they started inventing floor monitors. I wonder when that happened. That would have changed everything for them.
or what if they'd had ear monitors? What if
Oh my
Crosby,
God.
Stills, and Nash had had ear monitors?
Could they have sung better than they already did? Is that possible? I don't. I can't
The-
imagine that. I'm always amazed when I do. I gotta say, when I hear recordings of the Beatles live, I am always astonished at their pitch accuracy. John and Paul in particular, their pitch accuracy, given that they were singing out into a room with nothing, with no fold back,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely stunning every time. All right, so so flying. So I hear what you're saying. Flying is not egregiously bad, and it's actually kind of sweet in its way, because it's just it's just music. It's just the Beatles making a little tune together. But we have to say, like, in terms of Beatles, if you will look at the overall context, Beatles songs, great Beatles songs, I wouldn't put Flying in with great Beatles songs. And so, therefore, I am
Oh.
going to continue to leave it on the Brown album, where I believe it belongs. Now, let's get to another Ringo number. Now, I think this is one that, again, I think he primarily wrote Don't Pass Me By. Is that correct? Do we?
Yeah, it's
This is
his
his.
first solo composition.
Oh, there you go. His first complete solo composition, and he'd been working on this for some years. I think he had said he had it lying around, and
So let's compare, though,
okay,
the reactions that George has to the reactions Ringo
oh,
had.
okay,
Um, Ringo wasn't a songwriter,
no,
wasn't really a singer. It
hardly,
was
but
certainly a stylist, but
I'll have to say, and in studying the great rock drummers of that period, Ringo is the only one of all the greats, with very few exceptions, who sang Levon, but he sang lead regularly with the Beatles in their
yeah,
shows. He was a lead
yeah,
singer, which very few drummers had that position, and he wasn't a great singer, but he wasn't a bad singer. As a matter of fact, I will point to the Hollywood Bowl version of Boys to show you that he
yeah.
could really be a hellacious, great rock and roll singer when if the atmosphere was right. But so he was, but he wasn't a great singer. But Keith Moon, they put him on vocals occasionally too. Now there was a bad singer.
Yeah.
Ringo was a better singer than Keith. Let's give him that at least.
When I said he wasn't a singer, I don't mean that he couldn't sing or was a bad singer.
Yeah.
Pitch wise, like there's a version of the Beatles. There's an alternate history of the Beatles
Mm.
where Ringo never sings.
Yeah.
Where, like, oh, listen, you don't sing as well as John or Paul, so you're just going to play drums.
Yeah.
And what strikes me about this and his relationship with John and Paul, they seem to have encouraged Ringo and discouraged George.
Interesting. Yes. The older guy, yes. The young guy, no.
Yeah, or the guy who is just kind of friendly and isn't trying so hard.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, yeah. Yeah, well, there was this everyman quality about, I think that's the thing about Ringo, this sort of like, you hear yourself in Ringo,
Yeah.
because like, oh, yeah, that's probably about as good as I would do it.
What Ringo's country music fetish is also very interesting to me.
Yeah.
I really want to know if country music was somehow big in Liverpool, which is possible because it's a seafaring city, right? It's a dock city. There were Americans coming in all the time,
Right.
and they brought in blues records and R&B records, which is why the Beatles were so hip. So
Right.
maybe there were country records too.
Right. Well, like I said, he had they had that obsession, this sort of Western obsession. Again, his name, and this this idea about moving to Texas. There was that that country thing, and he liked that country music, right? All this the American country artists that he loved, and George as well, right? They had this sort of background in Carl Perkins and this sort of
Yeah.
hillbilly thing. There must be some sort of romantic thing. I remember my mom told me, who had grown up in Germany, that in the in the mid-century, Germans generally culturally were obsessed with the American West too. They loved cowboy stories and this sort of American West kind of thing. But I think American music, rock and roll, since it had come from all these various sources, blues, R&B, but country music was also a big part of it. And I think I feel like that was like part of the interesting landscape of Beatles music, is that they were sort of jamming all these things together, one on top of the other. They could recombine them in these really interesting ways. Take some country
Yeah.
elements and R&B elements and kind of somehow make them work in tandem.
And that's sort of the weakness in the appropriation argument. White people should never appropriate culture from black people. Uh, I I recognize why that's an important idea.
Yeah.
And as a white guy from Connecticut, it's
Mm.
not my place to decide whether or not that's valid.
Yeah.
But if there's no appropriation, then you don't get the Beatles, who are simultaneously appropriating so many things,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The Everly Brothers, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Chet Atkins, and I'm sure I'm missing other things too. The
Yeah.
Four Creps, maybe.
Yeah.
And
Everything. Show tunes. It was all in there.
yes, oh sure, Broadway.
Yeah.
A-
So
And
yeah.
and appropriating all this stuff is what creates something new.
Right. Right. I mean, that was it. I mean, they weren't in a vacuum. They were taking all these things. Being having played in this in Bambikino, who, we specialize in their early cover band, set, the stuff that they did, whatever 100, 200, known songs that they would play live. It's all that stuff. It's Your Feet's Too Big by Fats Waller and all these like, very
Yeah.
strange things, but they had very eclectic tastes, as they sort of got their handle on being better and better songwriters as the '60s moved on, their eclectic tastes, came more and more to the fore, where Paul could write some sort of, sort of 20s pastiche kind of thing, honey pie, or like they could go anywhere, and
Yeah.
they could move through genres, very very gracefully, or combine genres together in ways you hadn't really, songs that are half country, half R&B, in their mid period. Amazing, amazing.
There's another aspect to this too that I want to bring up, because this song, Don't Pass Me By, and Revolution 9, which
Yeah,
comes next,
yeah,
are both on the White Album.
yes,
And I think you and I are both big fans of the White Album,
absolutely, absolutely.
except for a couple of songs that need to be skipped over. Um, and so one of the remarkable things, well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but
Yeah,
because this is more true for Revolution 9, but
yeah.
we can come back to this
Well,
anyway.
yeah,
The-
yeah.
the-
I've saved that one for the end of this discussion because in order it's the last one, and I feel it's like kind of the mother of all Brown album tracks, potentially because of it's the kind of thing that the average fan is going to skip over Revolution 9 because it's a bit much. But we
so
can talk about that in 1 second. 'Cause it's more than that. Uh, um, but let's get rid of Don't Pass Me By. Have we handled? Do we need to talk about that one? Have we got
I,
it?
I I think so, yeah.
Okay,
But let me say this as a
sure,
bridge to our next song.
please.
One of the incredible things to me about the White Album is the cover,
Yes.
which was created by a British pop artist named Richard Hamilton.
Hmm.
Like a lot of pop artists, people know about Andy Warhol, but there are a lot of pop artists, especially in England,
Yeah.
that have a significant influence on pop music, including Peter Blake, who was a big influence on Pete Townsend and set an example for Townsend of writing about everyday commonplace things.
Right.
So in the late 60s, now the Beatles have gotten very sophisticated. They're no longer a Liverpool band. They've been in London for a long time. They've met everyone. They're hobnobbing with everyone.
Right.
Um, McCartney, in particular, is making a gigantic effort to come up with new ideas, and explore the avant-garde. So here's an album that sells millions and millions of copies, and it's a large pressing of a conceptual art idea.
Yeah. Right. Even more so than their previous album, which was touted as this piece of art, right? The album as the new idea of the sort of album as an entity unto itself, the sort of little world, right? That was why people sort of talk about Sergeant Pepper, right, as being this sort of great change, because it sort of it made the album it was a new concept, right, to how to approach an album, not just like a couple of singles and then some other songs around it. It was an album that was like an entire world unto itself. Whether it was successful at that or not, I guess is up to interpretation. But and so now they have done that, and then as they're like, okay, we did that. Now what do we do? What's next?
Yeah.
So the next step was the White Album, right? And so from this sort of from the previous one, there was a sort of elaborate, ornate thing to this super plain, ultra minimalist concept of and obviously they were doing on this album what I think they were trying to do with Get Back was to go to a sort of a more basic type of recording, not this sort of layers and layers of stuff. It's a much more brutal kind of recording. It's much more direct, and there's a lot of stuff hanging off the edges and bottles. My favorite moment is that bottle rattling at the end of Long, Long, Long. I think that's one of those many things that the Beatles they were so all right with leaving mistakes and accidents and things that were spontaneous. In their early records, they were already used to sort of yelping and yelling things out in the middle of a take and off mic. They were already ready, used to sort of random things, and they knew how random things could make a song even more exciting. Sort of a yelp or a scream before the classic scream before the guitar solo kind of garage rock thing. And they continued on where they were just whatever, turn on the radio and okay, that's going on the song, like they were okay with and they were okay, and it seemed to be they were okay with like bad punches, and like they left all that stuff in there as kind of the magic of those records. They were okay with spontaneous things. Most artists are like, let's fix it. They didn't. They were okay with not fixing it. They left it as it was.
It puts you in the as the listener.
Yeah.
It puts you in the studio with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the White Album as well.
I don't know if you knew this. The initial pressing of the White Album was 5 million copies. Each one of them had an individual number on it.
Yes, they were individually numbered, correct.
And Richard Hamilton said that this was effectively the largest numbered edition in history. Numbered editions are usually like 100, 200. Yeah. A numbered edition of 5 million is crazy.
Yeah.
And you probably remember a few years ago, Ringo sold his copy of the White Album, which was stamped. No, one.
We had number one?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I assume he sold it for charity.
Probably. I saw it at one point that I noticed in an auction that there was an auction they were selling, of all things, they were selling oh gosh. I'm so when I think of it, I'm trying to think of a name, and it gets away from me. The actress who was killed in the Manson murders was
Sharon Tate.
Sharon Tate. I noticed there was an auction of Sharon Tate's copy of the White Album. How morbid is that?
That's distasteful.
Yeah. I went up for auction. I'm like, who would buy that? Probably there's a number of people. Yeah, it's an incredible document. It's an incredible document, the White Album.
Can you complete this phrase?
Try me.
It's too late to fall in love with Sharon Tate. But it's too soon. I'm giving you a hint.
Oh, gosh.
No, it's a Jim Carroll song.
Okay, no, go ahead. I don't know. Please.
It's too soon to ask me for the words I want carved on my tomb.
Ah.
As far as I know, the only good song ever written about Sharon Tate.
Right on. Yeah, and we're talking about Ian MacDonald, and Ian MacDonald does go on quite a bit about Revolution Number Nine, and you're right. It is a very, very one, two, three, four. It's like four and a quarter pages
Yeah.
of discussion about why this was such a groundbreaking thing to put on anyone's record. But because it was the Beatles, it was especially groundbreaking. Because the Beatles were the only band in the world that could get away with
Yes.
putting this piece of music concrete on a pop album and have millions of people just have it in their homes, whether they listened to it or they didn't listen to it even once. And he speaks about how, I think in there, about how all these other artists would have been deeply jealous that they were able to do that.
Yeah, this isn't Stockhausen selling 40,000 copies of an album.
Yeah.
This is an experimental, and it's also not John and Yoko making an avant-garde album that isn't going to sell. This is nailed into one of the great pieces of popular art.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you this,
Sure.
again, in the spirit of full transparency.
Absolutely.
I have heard a rumor
Ah.
from a mutual friend of ours
Okay.
that you can't stand this song, and that maybe this song was even the reason that you thought about doing the Brown album.
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that, I don't remember if there was a particular song that sent me down this track. I don't think there was, and I don't remember how it began. But it would seem to me, like I said, if I had to, off the top of my head, think of like, what is the one song, if you ask an average Beatle listener or any music fan, like what's the one Beatles track you don't need to listen to? This might be the song that they pick because it's hard to listen to. It's not an easy listen. It's work. You have to kind of sit there and let it, and try to understand it. And it's like any great piece of art. It's not something you can just like leave on in the background and hum in the shower. It's something that demands you stop and listen to it to hear what is happening and why it's happening. And it's hard to decipher what's happening because it's intentionally, willfully obtuse. Even Lennon later on said, "Well, I thought it was one thing, but it turned out I thought it was anti-war, but it turned out to be pro-war." It's a complex piece and divisive. And I can imagine how a lot of people were like, what the hell is this? I would imagine that the other Beatles themselves were like, "Are you sure?" And John Lennon, he's like, "Oh, I'm John Lennon. Yeah, I'm sure." I'm like, "All right, okay then."
I think it bothered McCartney that he wasn't on this song.
Oh yeah. Well, right. Being probably the more, it's interesting. This sort of after John's untimely execution, McCartney had to go on a sort of a years of, where he had to sort of rehabilitate his own place in the Beatles. It was like, well, John's the avant-garde artist and Paul is just a pretty face. And Paul had to sort of remind people over the years that, well, that's not exactly the case. I was really pretty much into, who's the tape loop guy? That's McCartney. As a matter of fact, I keep talking about this. I just wrote a little piece actually a few weeks ago about my obsession with Tomorrow Never Knows, a song that everyone knows is a bunch of tape loops. There's famous loops kind of going through the song in and out, and they're beautiful and really a unique sound experiment. But what people don't talk about is the fact that the rhythm track itself, the drums and the bass, are also themselves a tape loop. The Beatles don't talk about it. They never mention it. I'm not exactly sure why. I have a theory, but it's a really experimental song. It's the first song with a bass and drum loop on it. By the way, you won't find an earlier example than that. Because here's what I believe. I believe this song was recorded only maybe weeks after John and Yoko started their relationship, and they had one of the first things they did was start to make these tapes together.
Yes, right.
And I think that this track was also an extension of that shared love of sort of. This kind of whatever music concrete or whatever it's called, these sort of audio,
right. Okay.
what's the word for it? Audio past, I'm I can't find the word. But
Yeah, you're right.
I
It's
believe
Lennon.
this. Yeah. But because I
Yeah.
think that McCartney, who himself, like I said, was really into avant-garde and John Cage and all this stuff, well, McCartney might have been upset that he wasn't involved with it in the same way that Lennon was upset that McCartney didn't let him on. Why don't we do it in the road?
Right.
Come on, Paul. That's got me written all over it. But
And
go ahead.
one of the ongoing dynamics in Paul's life, of course, as the surviving genius,
Yeah.
is dealing with the fact that he's still alive. When
Mm.
you're dead, everybody loves you. Dead people don't make mistakes, right?
Right.
They don't put out temporary secretary. Um, they don't release spies like us
No,
as
they
a
don't do
sequel.
that. They don't do that.
Dead people are immortal.
Right.
And yeah, one of the dynamics in Paul's life is he resents the fact that John gets credit for being the avant-gardist
Right.
by virtue of having met and fallen in love with Yoko Ono, who was I don't know how many Beatles fans actually know this.
Yeah.
She was a major conceptual artist
Yeah.
in New York, in the Fluxus school.
Right.
She had an ongoing relationship with Lamont Young, the most
Yep.
important minimalist composer of the 20th century.
Right.
There was a series of concerts in her loft, which sort of defined
Yeah.
the sound of experimental music in New York in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
But Paul, oh, don't, I used to go to see Stockhausen.
Right.
Paul feels like he's written off as the puppy dog
Right.
who writes the songs you play at your daughter's wedding.
Right.
And, John is the genius, right? And
Right.
it's, of course, it's not that simple.
No. 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 No.
So yeah, I think that Revolution 9 has probably sticks in McCartney's craw a little bit.
Yeah.
And he certainly has tried to correct the public record about who had the first interest in experimental music.
Right. Well, again, I think a lot of the stuff you hear, like one of the two will write a song, and then the other one will write an answer to it. Where John would write, Paul wrote Penny Lane after John wrote as an answer to Strawberry Fields and so forth. They both, and I think maybe John, after Tomorrow Never Knows, which was Paul bringing out his avant-garde side by using the sort of tape loop thing. I think this might have been John's response by doing his tape loop thing. I think one did it and then the other did it. They would sort of play off each other.
Here's what just occurred to me. Revolution 9 it's a collage.
Collage. That's the word I couldn't find. Thank you. Collage.
And there's Mellotron in it.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's part of the A Day in the Life orchestration played backwards.
Mm-hmm.
There's a loop of Sibelius.
Huh.
So there are all these weird studio tricks that are going on in it.
Right.
And I'm not playing it every morning, but I have time for Revolution 9 when it comes on.
Okay.
But maybe I'm a hypocrite because I was saying I don't care that Sgt. Pepper was influential and changed the sound of popular music and was groundbreaking. But I guess I do care that Revolution 9 was the same thing.
Yeah. But again, it wasn't influential. I mean, there wasn't a lot of people doing music concrete as a result of listening to it. It wasn't like a wave of bands doing sound collages after 68. Were there? I mean, maybe I missed it.
No, probably not. But if you want to look at is there another song from 1968 that so accurately and with such vision predicts the future of music?
Possibly not. Possibly not. No, I can't argue its importance as an event.
Yeah.
I can't. There's no arguing that it's unique, and that it ended up on a Beatles record, and the Beatles. Yeah, that confluence of this piece of music on a Beatles record, it's really astonishing. It's really astonishing.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Even if it was just to try to chase away the grannies,
Yeah, right. Like, yeah,
right? We're old, we're boring, we're passé.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
How about this, motherfucker?
Enjoy 94 minutes of this tape loop.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Fab Four who do the entire piece in real time?
I know about them, but I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
seen
it's
them.
really fantastic. They sort of have orchestrated it out, and they sort of play it live in front of the audience. They do the whole thing all the way through. It's pretty fantastic. It's
That's a perverse
It
idea.
is very perverse, and yet they lean in right into it. They sort of somehow charted it all out and figured out how to do it. And I don't know if they probably a few moments that they have to. I don't know if they've included pieces of the actual recording. I know this is Yoko sort of reading stuff, but no, I think they actually just kind of perform the whole thing.
Yeah.
Somehow they recreate it. It's pretty hilarious.
Let's go
Yeah,
see
they're
them.
great. Yeah, no, you enjoy that. They do that all the time. They play the whole White Album all the way from front to back, or they do Abbey Road front to back. They're they're fun because they really lean into it. They're so meticulous about it, and it's great. It's great.
So, how many Brown album songs did we find?
Well, I think that was I threw 11 at you, but I may it's all too much. I might reconsider. So that was 10 for us, and and I guess there was about 11 on the first episode was about 10 songs, and the final episode that I recorded with Sean Nelson of the of Harvey Danger fame
Yeah.
was another 11 songs, including Obla-D and Rocky Raccoon and Piggies, and I think I put up Savoy Truffle, but then took Savoy Truffle out. It's one of those like I was kind of unsure where to go with it. But yeah, we had a great conversation. So there you go. I think I ended up with about like 10, it's close to 30 songs. 10. Yeah, it's about 30 songs. That's a decent bad Beatles compilation.
Well, it's perfect symmetry too, because the White Album was 4 LP sides,
Right.
and you're going to need 4 LP sides for the Brown Album.
Yeah, who's gonna? I want to release it on Crapple Records. I have some. I have a few. I've found what I believe to be the worst photographs of the Beatles I've ever found. I have them all ready to go. So I would love to. Believe me, if I could actually put out a physical copy of the Brown Album, I would be over the moon. I'm sure that could never happen, but.
I'm pretty sure the lawyers would
Yeah,
prevent.
yeah. But I probably make some playlist with my own album art on it, on a Spotify or something like that. I could probably find some way to sort of circumnavigate that.
Send me the link so I can never stream it.
You'll be the last to know. All right. Well, Rob, thank you so much for indulging me in this whim and your insight. I'm so glad I'm so glad that I waited. I was worth the wait. I'm sorry that you weren't feeling well, and I hope you generally feel better. But thank you for doing this. I really I can't thank you enough, man. It was perfect. I knew that you would be the perfect guy to do it.
This was a lot of fun, Ira. And in closing, let me just say that the Beatles are my favorite band to poop on.
All right, man. I love you, Rob Tannenbaum. Thank you very,
I
very
love you
much.
too, Ira.
All
Take
right, man.
care.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, and there you have it. Brown Album, Disc 2, Mid-Period Trash. I thank my distinguished guest, Rob Tannenbaum, for his knowledge and his insight. My friends, all that remains is our final episode of Season 1, Brown Album Part 3, The Later Crap. So please look out for that, and I'll see you next time right here on Hard Days Late Night with Ira. Come on, boys, play us out!
It's a hard day's late night.